Welcome to Cinema Bites,
Spider fly.
your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The movie begins with a child named Harold who lives inside a children's storybook. Harold has a magic purple pen, and he can draw anything he wants with this pen to turn it into reality. He even draws two animals to be his friends, and naming them Ilo and Porky, spending his time with them and having lots of fun. Every day before they go to sleep, the author of the book talks to them. Harold and his friends do not know the author's name, so Bill calls him the Old Man. Days pass, and Harold grows up and wants to see the Old Man, but the Old Man tells him that this is not possible because he lives in the real world. However, Harold's curiosity gets bigger. The next day, he prepares a very long list of questions about the real world and calls the Old Man to answer his questions, but the Old Man does not respond. So, Harold decides to draw a door to go to the real world. He says goodbye to his friends and asks them to wait for him until he returns. After that, Harold passes through the door, and people around him are circling him. He thinks he is in a three-dimensional world. At that moment, Porky wants to pass through the door and go after Harold, but it appears that Ilo is afraid to do that. Porky pulls a fork from her back and pricks her with it. He passes through the door, but the door closes on Porky by mistake. As soon as he arrives in the real world, he looks at himself in the mirror and keeps screaming when he finds that he has turned into a human. At the same time, Harold sees a person jogging. He runs beside him and asks who he is running from. This person is surprised by his words and accuses him of being crazy. He mocks him. Harold goes to a clothing store and changes his clothes to wear clothes like humans. After that, they are surprised by Ilo, and at the same moment, they see an old man in front of them. They run to him and are very happy, thinking this is the old man who was talking to them, but this old man is afraid of them and keeps away from them. It turns out that this is not the man they are looking for. Then, Harold decides to search for the old man somewhere else. He takes out the magic pen and draws a wheel, turning it into a real wheel. He and Wall ride it to look for the old man. At that moment, Porky is able to open the door, pass through it, and reach the real world in the form of a girl. Unlike Ilo, Porky is happy because she has become a human. Then, we meet a woman named Terry, who is in her car with her son, Mel. It appears that Mel is introverted and does not have any friends, to the point that he invents an imaginary friend for himself, whom they name. Suddenly, she hits Harold and Elle. Terry gets out to check on them, and it is clear they are fine, and nothing happened to them. Then Terry notices the car tire was punctured in the accident. She is very upset because she doesn't have a spare wheel, so she takes out her phone to call the maintenance center. Harold takes advantage of her being busy with the call, takes out the magic pen, and draws a car tire, turning it into a real tire. At that moment, they see Mel, who is surprised by what is happening. She throws him in the car and thanks him for his help. Then they get to know each other, and Terry takes them with her in the car. She decides taking them home so they can rest and continue their trip the next day. When they arrive, she makes them sleep upstairs. Harold notices there is a musical note in the place and learns from Terry that she played the piano and dreamed of being a famous musician one day. However, all her dreams were destroyed after her husband's death, as she took on the responsibility of the house and raising Mel. In the end, she ended up working as a worker in a supermarket. At night, Harold sits with Mel and asks how he was able to make the car tire. Harold shows him the magic pen he has and draws a butterfly with it, saying the butterfly is real. Then Harold gives the pen to Mel and asks him to draw anything that comes to his mind. Mel sees a spider with wings and turns it into a real spider. It turns out the spider is wild because it attacks the butterflies and eats them. At that time, Porky is walking in the street, feels cold, and sees purple flowers in front of one of the houses. She thinks Harold and Elle are in that place, but as soon as she enters the house, she does not find them. Instead, she finds a jacket hanging on a hanger, so she takes it and gets dressed. Then she goes to the kitchen and continues eating. Suddenly, she hears the voices of the homeowners telling her they informed the police. Porky quickly runs out of the house before the police come and arrest her. The next day, Terry's surprised when she finds a lot of food on the table. Then she sees Harold, Mel, and Elle sitting and having breakfast in the garden. She asked them, where did they get this food from? But her son told her that Ilo who made them all this food, and he also painted the house purple using the magic pen. But Terry doesn't believe him, and she is convinced that he made a kind of magic trick. Terry takes Harold aside and tells him she does not need more imaginations, as the imaginations her son is making her live with his imaginary friend are enough for her. Harold takes out his magic pen, breaks a piece of it, and gives it to Mel. Mel feels very happy and thanks him. He decided that he will not go to school and will go with Harold and Ilo to look for the old man. When Mel finds them not knowing where to start looking, he takes them and goes with them to the library. There, he introduces them to Gary, the librarian. who is an old friend of Terry's, Mel's mother, from their university days. After that, Gary asks Harold and Will to tell him the name of the old man they are looking for, but he is surprised to find that they don't know. Gary mocks them and tells them that they do not need the internet to look for the old man, and that it is better for them to ride an airplane and write him a letter in the sky. The strange thing is that Harold describes Gary as a genius because he liked the idea of the airplane very much. After that, he goes out to the street and uses the magic pen and draws an airplane and is able to transform it into a real plane. As soon as Gary sees what is happening, he is shocked because he knows the name of the book that tells the story of Harold and the purple crayon, so he goes to take the book from the library. As for Harold, he takes Milo and Ilo and flies in the plane in the air, and Mel suggests writing his mother's phone number by the smoke next to the letter that he is going to write to the old man. He does so. When they land on the ground, they look at the sky and are very impressed with what they did. After a while, the old men start calling Terry because they think that Terry is looking for an old man to marry, but Terry ignores everyone who calls her, hangs up on them, and is very surprised by the number of calls that come to her. At night, Harold draws a piano for Terry without her seeing him, and surprises her by asking her to play the piano. Terry loves it very much and starts to play, and it appears that Terry's playing is very beautiful and attracts the attention of the people in the park, so they gather around her and enjoy it. After she finishes, they all applaud her. At that moment, Gary arrives and tells Harold and Ilo that they found the old man they were looking for, so they farewell Terry and Mel and went with Gary. After that, they sit together, and Gary tells them about the book they were living in. They know that the author of this book is called John, which means that he is the old man who was talking to them all the time. This way, the search will be much easier because they will know his address and go to him. At that moment, Porky appears in the place and is very happy because she found them, but the police come and arrest her. When they know that Harold and Ilo are her friends, they arrest them as well. At the police station, the officers take the enchanted pen from Harold, which means that Harold and his friends will not find a way out. Then the policeman comes and opens the cell to let a criminal in, so Harold and his friends take advantage of the opportunity and escape until they take the pen out of the cell. Then Harold moves quickly, goes to get the enchanted pen, and gives it to Ilo. Then they find a huge iron ball destroying the cell wall, and Harold and his friends get out of the cell and escape quickly. The next day, Mel is in school, and two of his bullying classmates come and take his whistle and put it in the storeroom. So Mel uses the part of the enchanted pen that he took from Harold and draws his imaginary friend, whose name is Carl. The children scared when they hear a very loud knocking sound on the storeroom door, and even more when they see Carl, who is a flying dragon. He attacks them, takes the whistle from them, and returns it to Mel. At that moment, Mel is very happy and thanks Carl. Then Mel leaves school and meets Harold and his friends. Mel recognizes Porky and is very happy that Harold and his friends return to him. At that moment, Harold tells Mel that they knew the name of the man they were looking for, so he searches for him on the internet and finds his home address. Then they all go to the house, but they are shocked when they learn that John died and that his wife turned the house into a museum for his works. Harold is very sad because of John's death. At that moment, Terry arrives, who knew where her son was by tracking his phone. Terry is very upset with Mel because he did not return home and went with Harold. Terry asks Harold to stay away from her son and leaves. Because of the frustration that controls Harold, the power of the enchanted pen weakens, and everything he drew begins to disappear, starting with his friends, Ilo and Porky. At the same time, Terry realizes that the tire of the car Harold drew has disappeared, and because of its disappearance, the car breaks down on the road. Mel sees Harold with Gary in the car. Mel's surprised that Harold is alone and without his friends. Mel starts to feel that something is wrong and wants to go after Harold to help him, but Terry refuses and asks him to forget about Harold and not think about him. But when he takes him home, Mel slips behind his mother, rides his bike, and looks for Harold. At that time, Harold is in the library with Gary. Gary takes advantage of the fact that Harold is frustrated and sad and asks him to give him the enchanted pen. He tells him that the pen is no longer useful to him after John's death. Harold is persuaded by Gary's words and gives him the pen, but he is surprised when Gary uses the power of the enchanted pen and throws it against the wall. At that moment, Gary's evil intentions become clear. He wants to take revenge on all the printers who refuse to print his novel, so he decides not to use the power of the pen. The bewitched one is evil, but Gary ignores his words and insists on his plan. At that moment, Mel arrives and tries to save Harold, but Gary grabs him and ties him up next to Harold. Then, Gary tells them that he will use the power of the enchanted pen to turn his novel into a real one, so that he can become the legendary hero and marry the princess he loves. Gary reveals that the princess is Terry, whom he has loved for a long time and wants to marry. Then, he leaves them and walks away. When Gary exits the library, he draws a warplane, gets on it, and flies away. At that moment, Harold feels sad about everything that has happened to him in the real world. But Mel takes out a part of the enchanted pen from his pocket and uses it with Harold. Together, they create a balloon, fly into the sky, and start searching for Gary. Meanwhile, Terry discovers that Mel isn't home, so she quickly leaves to look for him. She reacts in shock when she finds the house turning purple. The scene shifts to Harold and Mel, who see Gary driving his car through the streets of Beirut. He doesn't reach the city park, and there they manage to knock him out of his car. They descend from the balloon, and Harold confronts Gary. Gary reveals that he has a bigger part of the enchanted pen, which means Harold won't be able to defeat him. However, Harold ignores his words and bravely challenges him. Both of them start drawing their weapons for a fight. Harold manages to defeat Gary and is about to take the pen from him, but Gary grabs the pen and swallows it. Gary's body possesses the power of the enchanted pen, and he transforms into the legendary hero from his novel. At that moment, Terry arrives and looks at Mel. As soon as Gary sees her, he offers to join him, promising to marry her and make her a princess in the world they will live in. However, Terry refuses and wants to take her son and escape. Gary uses his powers, causing lava to erupt from all sides. Harold tries to help them but falls to the ground and the pen flies out of his hand, landing far away. Suddenly, Carl, Mel's friend, appears and rushes toward Gary, but Gary strikes him and Carl falls to the ground. At that moment, Harold wishes his friends were there to help him. Suddenly, Porky and Ilo appear, as Harold regains his full confidence in himself. Everything created by the magic pen returns to its original state. Harold tells his friends that he lost part of the magic pen. Porky uses his strong sense of smell to find the missing part, which throws it to Harold. Gary stands in Harold's way, claiming that nothing can stop his story. But Harold surprises Gary by drawing the flying spider he had created earlier. The spider attacks Gary, and Porky hits him on the back. Gary transforms into his animal form, and they deliver a powerful blow to him. At the same moment, the spider retrieves the enchanted pen that Gary had swallowed. Once Gary's powers disappear, everything in the area returns to normal. Carl regains consciousness, and Harold checks on him. Gary apologizes to Harold for what he did, explaining that all he wanted was to live in the world he imagined for himself. Harold uses the enchanted pen to draw a large door and opens it, revealing the world Gary had envisioned. The heroine of Gary's novel, who looks like Terry, appears. Gary thanks Harold and walks through the door, transforming into the hero of his novel. Harold then closes the door, and Carl breathes fire to burn it, ensuring that Gary cannot return to the real world. The next day, Harold and his friends visit John's house, the author of the book. They are delighted by the drawings they see. John's wife gives Harold a letter from John, explaining that John left the enchanted pen for Harold to use his imagination and create his own story. Harold draws a door and opens it, allowing him and his friends to continue their story. They say goodbye to Mel and Terry before entering the door to return to their world. At night, Mel returns home and continues to play with Carl. As for Gary, he remains in his imagined world with Terry. When he finally sees her, he proposes to her, but is shocked to learn that she loves someone else. She marries the other man, and the movie ends. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos. See you next time.